Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting episode of This Is Some of Lucky's Hair. Anyway, so this video is going for the people who lived on Machinato housing area when I did. When our first house on Machinato Military Dependence housing area, it was a duplex. If it helps to figure out where we lived, my father was an officer. We lived at the first house was a duplex. Like I said, our immediate neighbor was a priest and his mother. Across the street from us lived Cindy Duncan, and I think she had two brothers and her parents. Her dad was an academy grad who thought he was better than everybody else because he was an academy grad. Yeah, my father outranked him, and my father had served in 3 wars, and Mr. Duncan had not served in a single war. So, don't get on your high horse with me. My father earned his rank. My father started as a private in the infantry, and he earned his rank. He wasn't given it because he went to school. And I've known people I knew people in college who had the credits to go to officers candidate school, but they refused to do so because they didn't want to have to be the one saying, well, they didn't want to treat people bad. Not all officers do that, but some officers do, and they didn't want to be the one sending people out to die. But anyway, so you could see the elementary school, well, the school, I think it was elementary and middle school. I guess you could see it from the house. Does anybody remember tickle bees? I wonder if anybody out there remembers tickle bees. They were bees. You could hold them in your hand and they just fly around and kind of tickle. They didn't sting. But anyway.
Were they bumblebees?
No, they were the size of honeybees. Anyway, so there was an incident that occurred. Not something I talk about a whole lot, but it's an issue, I guess. Two neighbors, one older, one younger, they were brothers. They found a bomb. And it had been dropped during the war. It was an American bomb, and they, for those who remember, and if you look at the pictures, you see how old I was, and I still remember that we were taught that if you find a bomb, if you find a hand grenade, if you find a bullet, you go tell a grown-up. They went in the house and they told their parent, or they told their mother. And their mother was like, sure, go back out and play. And they were hitting it with sticks, and boom! And that's all she wrote. And we had moved when that happened. We were actually living on Cleveland Court when that happened, but it happened over in that neighborhood that we had first lived in. Because we were on Okinawa for 5 years, and our first 2 houses were off base, our second 2 houses were on base. And does anybody remember the name of the clown? Because I still have a thing I did in kindergarten of the clown from like Kadena Carnival, and I made the hat like really tall, but it wouldn't fit in the frame, so my teacher cut it off, and I wrote my name backward, and so my teacher crossed it out and wrote it properly. And I remember my first day of kindergarten was not good. I did not want to be there. But Anyway, if any of you might have known me, or if I might have known you back in the day, my name at the time was James Connor, or Jimmy Connor. I would have gone by Jimmy.
Jimmy.
And I actually did not realize that more than one person can have the same name. Hold on, Lucky, I'll take you out again. I was with my dad, and my
what was the name of the rifleman, wasn't it? I know it was something Connor.
Yeah, I don't know though. Chuck Connors.
Chuck Connor. Hey, too bad he wasn't a James Connor.
Yeah.
Or another James Connor.
Yeah. But I heard somebody say, Jimmy, Jimmy, and I couldn't see them. They were like on the other side of a hill or something. And I'm like, Daddy, they're calling me. Who is it? Who's calling me? So they're not calling you. I'm like, they're not, but they're calling my name. He says, well, more than one person can have the same name. I was like, wow. I mean, that was like mind-blowing to me. I remember that so vividly. And what was the name of the department store in Naha that was like, I loved it. On the top of it, it had like a amusement park, and there was a anteater that they had in a cage.
Oh my.
Yeah, and they had a floor that was like, I guess the toy store section, and they would have somebody in there demonstrating stuff, and they had like two metal rings and put them together and then take them apart, and I could never do that. I could never figure out how it was done. Now I can figure it out, but back then I mean I was just a kid. But and my mother was the school nurse for a while, if you might remember her. Her name was Sarah Connor. Back there in the bedroom I have like her Red Cross patches.
Connor.
Yeah. And my father was Jim Connor, or James Connor, or Major Connor. We used to go to the officers club at, I call it F-Boom, Fort Buckner's Open Officers Mess. It's where they had that big anchor, and then we were looking at slides. I look at the anchor, and it really wasn't that big after all. There was an anchor. If you go on what we used to be called Highway 1, and you go north, if I mentioned this in another video, there's a Okinawan restaurant, and like the back part was on stilts, and during high tide the fishermen would anchor their boats back there. At low tide though, you could walk way out there. I was a kid at the time, so it seems like 200 or 300, 400 yards, and there was this little island or whatever, and you could walk all the way around it, and it was taller than my dad was when you were out there, you know. And from there was a huge anchor, probably left over from like a battleship or an aircraft carrier or something big. It was huge. Part of it was still in the water. I mean, it was way out there, and part of it was still in the water, but I mean at low tide it was, you could see it, even though, you know, the bottom part was still underwater. Okuma Beach, at the time it was an officer's retreat. Now I think it's open to everybody. I used to, like I was telling my wife, I used to sit at the koi pond and talk to the fish. You know, somebody would come over the little bridge, and I go, you know, we saw a movie there. I think it was a Robin Hood movie, and I've never seen that movie since. I would love to see that movie again. I remember they shot an arrow like into the tower where like the king was or something like that. I don't remember if it killed the king or if it had like a note tied to it or something. But I miss the food. Oh boy, do I miss the food. They had the best food on Okinawa. Sherry Castle, but it was in ruins at the time. The old DC-3 that used to be sitting out there. And over by the officers club, anybody remember somebody had the basket for like a balloon, a hot air balloon? And that hill, I don't remember the name of that hill that was behind us. Behind the first on-base house, which was on Machinato, and you keep going back, you get to the school. But those are good memories for the most part. So anyway, I wonder if anybody remembers that first incident. Bye.